You want to know what it feels like to be erased? To have the person you carried for 9 months, raised for 28 years, loved through scraped knees and broken hearts and failed dreams, to have that person look at you and decide you're too much trouble for their perfect day? It starts with a voice note. 23 seconds that shatter everything you thought you knew about your place in this world. Mom, please don't come. It'll make things easier. Easier? As if my presence is a complication to be managed, a problem to be solved. As if 28 years of motherhood can be dismissed with a casual request delivered through a phone screen because she couldn't even be bothered to look me in the eye. I played it twice. The first time, I thought I'd misheard. The second time, the words hit like a physical blow, each syllable driving deeper into the space where my heart used to be. The tea kettle was screaming in the background, that shrill, desperate sound that demands attention. But I couldn't move. I stood in my kitchen, the one where she learned to crack eggs and burn toast and complain about everything I cooked, and I listened to my only child uninvite me from the most important day of her life. The kettle kept screaming until the water boiled away and the metal started to burn. Even then, I didn't move. Because what do you do when the person who made you a mother decides you're not worthy of watching her become a wife? They tell you that motherhood is forever. They lie. Motherhood lasts exactly as long as your child decides to let it. And mine decided it was over the morning after I bought my wedding shoes. Navy blue pumps with just enough heel to make me feel elegant, not desperate. I'd spent an hour in that store, trying to find something that said proud mother without screaming lonely widow. Something that would photograph well when she looked back at the pictures in 30 years. Those shoes are still in their box. Still wrapped in tissue paper like a gift I'll never get to give. The days after the voice note blur together in a haze of forced normalcy. I dust the same photo frames I've been dusting for years. Her graduation, her first job, that vacation we took to the coast when she was 15 and still thought I hung the moon. I polished the silverware my mother gave me, the set she said was for special occasions. What's more special than your daughter's wedding? What's more special than being invited to exist in her life? I keep the routine because the routine is all I have left. Wake up, coffee, dust, polish, pretend. Pretend that the phone might ring with an apology. Pretend that the invitation might still come. Pretend that somewhere in the daughter I raised is the girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms and whisper that she'd take care of me when I got old. The quilt is the worst part. It's draped over the back of the sofa, half finished, a pattern of interlocking rings that we started 2 Christmases ago. She said it would be for her future home, wherever that might be. We spent Sunday afternoons working on it, her hands clumsy with the needle, mine guiding hers through the stitches. This is how you make something that lasts, I told her, with patience and time and love. The irony tastes like blood in my mouth. The quilt sits there, abandoned, a monument to the naive belief that love is enough. That showing someone how to create beauty means they'll want to create a life with you in it. I touch my husband's cufflinks sometimes, the ones in the small wooden box on my dresser. He's been gone 3 years now, but I still reach for his opinion in moments like this. What would David say about his little girl cutting me out of her wedding? Would he be furious? Heartbroken? Or would he do what he always did? Find some way to make sense of the senseless, to excuse the inexcusable? She's protecting herself, he might say. From what? I'd ask. From us? From the people who loved her first and best and always. But David isn't here to play peacemaker anymore. It's just me and the silence and the suffocating weight of being unwanted by the person who made my life make sense. The florist shop smells like funeral arrangements and fresh starts. I'm there because I can't help myself, because some masochistic part of me needs to see what flowers she's chosen, what colors she's deemed worthy of her perfect day. I tell myself I'm buying roses for my kitchen table, but we both know I'm here to torture myself with glimpses of a celebration I'm banned from. The woman ahead of me is arguing with the clerk about hydrangeas, something about the blue being too pale, not matching the vision. She's elegant in that way that money can't buy, with silver hair swept into a chignon and the kind of posture that suggests she's never apologized for taking up space. When she turns around, frustrated with the clerk's inability to understand her requirements, Our eyes meet with the recognition of shared exasperation. Weddings, she says with a sigh that carries decades of experience. Such elaborate productions for such simple ceremonies. I should smile and nod and move along. Instead, I hear myself saying, "Are you the mother of the bride or groom?" Groom's mother, Mrs. Dalton. And you? The words stick in my throat like broken glass. I was supposed to be the bride's mother. She studies my face with the sharp intelligence of someone who's spent years reading between lines, navigating the unspoken truths that families specialize in. Supposed to be? And then it all spills out. The voice note. The uninvitation. The shoes still in their box. I tell this stranger things I haven't been able to say to anyone, because who do you tell that your daughter doesn't want you? Who understands the shame of being rejected by your own child? Mrs. Dalton listens without judgment, her face growing softer with each detail. When I finish, she's quiet for a long moment, her fingers absently straightening the petals of a white rose. "My son," she says finally, "informed me last week that the ceremony would be intimate. Just immediate family." When I asked what that meant, he explained that his fiancée's family is quite small and they wanted to keep things balanced. Balanced. As if love is a ledger that needs to be reconciled. The pain in her voice mirrors my own, but there's something else there too. A steel that I recognize, a refusal to be diminished by someone else's narrow definition of worth. "So we're both excess baggage," I say, trying for lightness and failing. "Or," she says, her voice gaining strength, "we're exactly what's missing. If they can make space for everyone except the women who raise them, maybe we make our own space." Those words echo in my mind for days. Make our own space. What does that mean? How do you create belonging when you've been explicitly excluded? How do you matter when you've been told you don't? I find myself standing in front of my closet, staring at the dress I bought for a wedding I can't attend. It's navy blue silk, simple but elegant, with 3/4 sleeves that hide the age spots on my arms and a cut that flatters what's left of my waist. I bought it because I wanted to look like the kind of mother a daughter would be proud of. The kind of woman who belongs in wedding photos and family memories. I take it off the hanger and hold it against my body, studying my reflection in the full-length mirror. The woman looking back at me is tired, hurt, but not defeated. Not yet. The dress still fits. The mother inside it still has worth, regardless of what her daughter believes. There's a post-it note stuck to the corner of my mirror, something I wrote weeks ago in a moment of defiant hope. "You're not crashing, you're attending." At the time, it felt like wishful thinking. Now it feels like a declaration of war. I iron the dress with the same care I used to iron her school clothes, each press of the fabric a small act of rebellion. I polish my shoes until they gleam. I choose my jewelry carefully, the pearl earrings David gave me for our anniversary, the watch that belonged to my mother, the thin gold band I still wear even though he's gone. Armor disguised as accessories. The morning of the wedding, I call Mrs. Dalton. We don't discuss strategy or consequences. We simply agree to meet at the church at 2 o'clock. Two mothers who refuse to be erased, showing up to claim our place in a story that wouldn't exist without us. The drive to the church is surreal. I've made this route hundreds of times for Christmas pageants and Easter services and the Sunday mornings when we still believed in things like tradition and family. My hands shake on the steering wheel, but my resolve doesn't waver. I am not crashing my daughter's wedding. I am attending my daughter's wedding. There's a difference, even if she can't see it. Mrs. Dalton is waiting by the front steps, resplendent in powder blue and dignity. When she sees me, she nods once, a gesture of solidarity that steadies my nerves. We walk in together, two women who refuse to apologize for existing. The sanctuary is decorated in white and gold, with pale pink roses that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. The guests turn to look as we enter, their faces a mixture of surprise and curiosity. Some recognize me, their expressions shifting from confusion to understanding to something that might be respect. Others whisper behind their programs, no doubt wondering who we are and what we're doing here. We don't take seats in the back like repentant sinners. We walk halfway down the aisle and settle into a pew on the bride's side, because that's where I belong whether she likes it or not. Mrs. Dalton sits beside me, her presence a shield against the stares and whispers. The ceremony begins with all the pomp and circumstance that money can buy. The music swells, the doors open, and there she is, my daughter. My heart walking around outside my body, looking more beautiful than I've ever seen her. The dress is perfect, her hair is perfect, her makeup is perfect. Everything is exactly as she envisioned, except for the uninvited guests sitting 6 rows back. She sees me the moment she reaches the altar. Her eyes widen, and for just an instant, the mask of bridal composure slips. The color drains from her face, and her hand trembles against her bouquet. Part of me wants to look away, to spare her the embarrassment of my presence. But a larger part, the part that carried her, birthed her, raised her, meets her gaze and doesn't flinch. I am here. I exist. You cannot wish me away. The ceremony proceeds without drama. No one objects when given the chance. No one causes a scene. I sit quietly, tears streaming down my face, as my daughter promises to love and honor a man she chose over the woman who taught her what love looks like. When they kiss, sealing their union, I clap along with everyone else because this is still my daughter's day, even if she doesn't want it to be. During the reception, something shifts. Maybe it's the wine, maybe it's the weight of the moment, but people begin to approach me. A teenage girl I recognize as her cousin comes over during dinner. Aunt Margaret? I'm so glad you came. It wouldn't have been the same without you here. The words are like water in a desert. Someone is glad I'm here. Someone thinks I belong. The groom's father, a quiet man I've met only once before, stops by during the cocktail hour. I don't know what happened between you and Sarah, he says quietly, but I'm sorry it happened. A wedding should bring families together, not tear them apart. Even some of the venue staff seem to sense the undercurrent of drama. The photographer, a young woman with kind eyes, approaches during the dinner service. I don't know if this is appropriate, she says hesitantly, but would you like me to take some photos of you and Mrs. Dalton? I know this day is complicated, but you both look beautiful, and sometimes it's nice to have pictures of the hard moments too. The pictures are simple. 2 women in their finest clothes, holding their heads high despite being unwanted. In one, we're sitting at our table, hands folded, faces calm, but eyes fierce. In another, we're standing by the window, the evening light casting us in gold. We look like what we are, mothers who refuse to be disappeared. During the toasts, my daughter stands to thank her new in-laws, her college friends, her sorority sisters, everyone who made the day special. She doesn't mention me. The omission is so pointed, so deliberate, that the silence after her speech stretches uncomfortably long. But I don't need her words to validate my presence. I'm here, I'm seen, and that's enough. Mrs. Dalton leans over during dessert and whispers, "You don't have to be forgiven to be seen." The words hit like a revelation. I've been waiting for permission to exist, for my daughter's approval to matter. But worth isn't something someone else grants you. It's something you claim for yourself. As the evening winds down, I watch my daughter dance with her new husband, radiant in her happiness. The anger I've carried for weeks begins to soften around the edges. She's wrong to exclude me, wrong to pretend I don't matter, but she's also young and scared and trying to build a life that feels entirely her own. Maybe this is part of growing up, the cruel rejection of everything that came before. That doesn't make it right. It doesn't heal the wound. But it makes it comprehensible in a way that allows me to breathe again. 3 days later, she shows up at my door. No phone call, no warning, just the sound of her key in the lock like she still lives here. I'm in the kitchen, ironically enough, the same place where I received her voice note. The circle of hurt completing itself. She looks tired, older somehow, the glow of the wedding already fading into the reality of what she's done. We stand on opposite sides of the kitchen island, the granite countertop a barrier between us that feels both physical and metaphorical. "You embarrassed me," she says without preamble. No hello, no apology, just accusation delivered like a slap. The old me might have crumbled, might have apologized for taking up space I wasn't granted. But something has changed in the past week, something that crystallized in that church pew and strengthened with every kind word from a stranger. No, I say quietly, my voice steadier than I feel. I reminded you I exist. She flinches as if I've struck her. That's not. You weren't supposed to be there. I'm your mother. I'm supposed to be everywhere you are until you don't need me anymore. But even then, I'm supposed to matter enough for an invitation to the biggest day of your life. It's complicated, she says, the words hollow and rehearsed. No, it's not. You chose to hurt me rather than deal with whatever complicated feelings you have about our relationship. You chose the easy path of exclusion over the hard work of inclusion. That's not complicated. That's cruel. The conversation doesn't end with hugs and tears and promises to do better. Real life isn't that neat, that forgiving. Instead, we sit at my kitchen table and drink coffee and speak truths that taste bitter but necessary. She tells me about the pressure she felt to make everything perfect, about her fear that my presence would remind everyone of her father's absence, about the twisted logic that convinced her that loving me meant protecting me from a day that would be too hard. I tell her about the shoes still in their box, about the quilt we'll probably never finish, about the loneliness of being rejected by the person who made you a mother. I tell her that protection was her choice to make, not hers, and that she chose wrong. We don't reconcile, not really. We just acknowledge the damage and agree to try to figure out how to move forward. She leaves without promising to do better, and I don't ask her to. Some wounds take time to heal, and some relationships need to be rebuilt from the ground up. 2 weeks later, I'm at the antique shop I've run for the past 5 years, sorting through a new shipment of estate jewelry, when the bell above the door chimes. I look up to see my daughter's cousin, the teenager who thanked me at the wedding, standing awkwardly in the doorway. Hi, Aunt Margaret. I hope it's okay that I came by. Mom gave me your address. She's 17, all arms and legs and nervous energy, with her mother's eyes and her grandmother's stubborn chin. I haven't seen much of her since she was small. Families fragment when relationships break down, and children become casualties of adult wars. Of course it's okay. Would you like some tea? We sit in the back of the shop, surrounded by other people's memories made manifest in china and furniture and photographs. She tells me about school, about her plans for college, about the boys she's dating who her parents pretend not to know about. Normal teenage things that feel extraordinary because someone is choosing to share them with me. I wanted to thank you again, she says eventually, for coming to the wedding. It was brave. It was necessary. I correct gently. There's a difference. Can I ask you something? Why didn't she want you there? It's a question I've asked myself 1,000 times, turning it over like a stone in my pocket, wearing it smooth with worry. I think I say slowly that sometimes when people are building something new, they think they have to tear down everything old. She wanted her wedding to be the beginning of her real life, and somehow that meant I couldn't be part of it. That's stupid, she says with the blunt honesty of youth. Yes, I agree. It is. We spend the afternoon sorting through boxes of old photographs, creating order from chaos. She finds a picture of my daughter at her age, all braces and bad bangs and fierce determination, and laughs. She looks so young and so serious. She was always serious. Even as a baby, she approached everything like it was a problem to be solved rather than an experience to be enjoyed. Is that why she did what she did? Maybe. Or maybe she's just figuring out how to be an adult and she's making mistakes along the way. The problem is that some mistakes hurt other people, and you can't always take that back. As she's leaving, she turns in the doorway and says, "If I ever get married, I'll make sure you sit in the front row." The words are like sunlight breaking through clouds. Not because I need her wedding invitation to validate my worth, but because someone sees me as worthy of inclusion. Someone understands that love means making space, not taking it away. That evening, I close the shop as I do every day, turning off lights and locking doors and setting the alarm. But tonight feels different, charged with possibility in a way that surprises me. I take the photograph the wedding photographer sent me, the one of Mrs. Dalton and me standing by the window, dignified in our refusal to be erased, and pin it to the corkboard behind the counter. It sits there among the business cards and appointment reminders and to-do lists. Reminder that some moments are worth preserving not because they're happy, but because they're true. We look fierce in that photo, unbroken despite the breaking. We look like women who know their worth regardless of who recognizes it. I whisper to the empty shop, to the ghosts of other people's lives that live in the furniture and jewelry and photographs, some seats you don't need an invitation for. In the distance, I hear the whistle of a tea kettle, not mine, but someone's, calling for attention from across the alley. This time I imagine someone will answer it. Someone will tend to the boiling water before it burns away to nothing. The anger is still there, will probably always be there to some degree. You don't stop loving someone who hurts you, but you learn to love them differently, with boundaries and expectations and the clear-eyed recognition that love alone isn't enough to prevent pain. My daughter will have to live with the choice she made, with the knowledge that she wounded the person who loved her first and best and always. But I will live too. I will live with dignity and purpose and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that I showed up when it mattered, even when I wasn't wanted. I will live with the friendship of another mother who understands that sometimes the most radical act is simply refusing to disappear. I will live with the promise of a teenage girl who sees me as worthy of front-row treatment, who understands that family means making space, not taking it away. The pain hasn't disappeared, may never fully heal, but it has transformed from something that diminishes me into something that strengthens me. I am a mother whose daughter didn't want her at her wedding. I am also a woman who showed up anyway, who claimed her place in a story that wouldn't exist without her, who refused to be written out of a narrative she helped create. The tea kettle stops whistling, answered at last. Somewhere, someone is tending to what needs tending, preventing the burning, choosing care over neglect. It's a small thing, but small things matter. Small acts of attention, small moments of dignity, small refusals to be erased. They add up to a life worth living, with or without an invitation.